Another issue that you've taken on is, obviously we look at government all the time, especially with presidential politics, but more and more big corporations, big business, they're forcing a way of life on us that, and they're using our money to do it. And Heritage Foundation has done a lot of research on this. What can the president do when it comes to these ESGs, these DIIs, using our money for investment, where the number one goal is no longer to make profit, but it's to drive social policy? Is there any leadership that the president can do on those issues?
Absolutely. We've done it in Florida. You have kind of an old strand of republicanism which says your job is basically to cut taxes and let corporations do whatever they want. And I don't know if that was ever something that worked in the past, but I do think if you go back to the 50s, the head of General Motors would say what's good for America is good for General Motors. I think the corporations were patriotic. I think they believed in the American way of life. Well, now, if you take that posture that we should not care what any of these corporations do, they are trying to change society. They are trying to change culture. They are trying to change policy through business decisions that the electorate doesn't have any say over. And we're supposed to be self-governing people through a constitutional process. So things like ESG really represent an end run around that. If you can have an asset manager like BlackRock use its considerable financial resources to force changes on society, then we're basically being governed without our consent. So in Florida, we kneecapped ESG in our pension, not allowed to use ESG for, this is like teacher money, cops, retired people. Their money is being manipulated to drive an agenda they disagree with. We took $2 billion that BlackRock was managing and took it away from them. We banned social credit scores because ultimately I think the vision is it's a politicized economy where your right to participate is going to be contingent on you bending the knee to whatever the hobby horse is of the elite class. And that's not going to be things that are going to be good for conservatives in any way, shape, or form. So your freedoms, your way of life, our culture is impacted when these companies do this. And so, example, with the Disney fight that we had.
You guys heard of Disney? Okay.
We had this, I mean, it's crazy that this is going on in this country, but they have teaching kindergarten first graders that their gender is a choice. Having a teacher tell a young girl that she was born in the wrong body. It's totally unacceptable, but yet that's what the left is trying to do. So in Florida, we said, you know what, we're not going to allow that. We're going to pass parents' rights legislation to say we're not going to have sexualized curriculum in our school, but particularly in the elementary school. Left didn't like it, the media didn't like it, but Disney, which is the most powerful corporation in the history of Florida, they came out whole hog against it. A lot of these old guard Republicans were telling me that somehow Disney, when they call the shots, you just got to bend the knee. And I said, no way. I am not going to just sit idly by and let people corrupt the innocence of our kids. If we can't stand up for our kids in those situations, then we're not good for anything. So we fought back against Disney. We had a big battle with them, and we won the battle against Disney. And you know what? It was not only important for Florida and to get that policy right. And look, some of this, I like to think I would take these positions no matter what, but we have 6', 5, and a 3-year-old at home. My wife and I are raising, and I look at like my 6-year-old daughter, and I'm like, how could you possibly want to inject things like gender ideology? I mean, it really is outrageous. And so I'm very sensitive about it, but I'll tell you, the fact that we were willing to stand up to them, that had reverberations across this country. Because I think you do have some CEOs that they're not necessarily bought into this agenda, but it's the path of least resistance. Because the media will attack them if they don't do the agenda. Some of these activist employees will attack them. And so they just say, you know what, bend the knee and move on. Now they can say, well, gee, I don't want to end up like Disney. People may fight back from the right now. So I think we helped kind of refocus business in America in a better way. I think it was going off the rails. I think there's still a lot of problems, don't get me wrong. But we had the most significant action that's ever been taken against a woke corporation, and we were right to do it, and my state is better off because we did it.